It's very wonderful to see a mountain and to want to climb it and put your flag on top of it. It's very wonderful to want to create your own mountain so you can climb it and put your flag on top of it. But it's also wonderful to know why you are doing that or why you are compelled to climb mountain in the first place. You might discover that everyone value mountain, but you actually love the sea and perhaps swimming is what you really was be doing, and if your colleague is the mountain and by all means to go climb the mountain. But if you have question about the sea, you might as well run the experience and see what happened. Life means to unfold, and if you're not unfolding turning some more incredible change that's building over time because of change that, then you are probably dead, and that shouldn't really be a role of anyone. Like I think every day I get up and I say what are my priorities, and then I move toward that. And sometimes honestly my priority is to see how many back-to-back episodes up whenever I'm watching on Netflix. I can watch, here that is come introvert Sunday that I need for the knowledge to make myself well in our work Monday morning. And sometimes if you know how much of my to-do list can I crank through before lunch. And so I tell myself that this to list are doing things that are so insignificant compared to the things that I have already have done. I already survived, I already accomplished. That is almost laughable. That the thing that stay there on my to-do list, like is they are actually mocking and so if you can go to the point where you can say, well, I've already pushed through something uncomfortable or life. I already done something that I didn't think that I was able to do. I didn't have the skill to do. I didn't have the confidence to even try. But yes, circumstance interview and I for sure to I already done this thing as the really different. You can say maybe this in a personal context and not a career context in my case I think theater and not in the same world, but I already is proof of concept is already so what reason what reason do I have to believe it to believe that this isn't not going to work again, so not thinking about this at this and try novel thing new thing because you do get a feel respond to a new thing because that our brain trying to protect us from things that my business was maybe they don't know anything about, and realizing that in the fantasy family text and don't click in new environment. And so I think that there are a lot of besides for looking back at our success and not just praising them, but really recognizing that the new challenge in fact Oregon and we are already land. A lot of early accomplishment that I have made were because I didn't realize I have an option, and that's actually a type of method. For teaching, I also use role play violin, and I was tough with the Suzuki method. If you look up Suzuki method, you have all these little profiles use leveling by violin, so that for beyond that, you would be somebody of that I should be able to do, and this nobody because nobody told them that they shouldn't be able to do that, and so that was basically my reality. I was told, well, you're 11, you are gonna start going to college, and so I went to the expectation was you were supposed to get used grades, so I did. Every time this was a goal, but in front of me, I didn't realize you could not accomplish it. So I just we never really know who we have been with. We have made it like one different decision, way back there in our childhood, but because of the way the brain develop, we are the more emotionally susceptible to the experience that we have early in life, and then we are later in life. We all have to live in this society that has been created for us, and this, certain that is one is a contributing member of the community of humanity, and that can be accomplished in many different ways. I think if I had a group of young people that I was responsible for, I would try and listen more than maybe make parents teach you what each of them wants. I certainly wouldn't try and try maintain all of them because you don't can do that. Right, put them in a situation where you can find people to emulate and to look up to and ask the real question of because the worst thing in the world is to have a it's one of my to have question and to know that it right people now have the right resources to get them answer. So the youthful brain is still plastic. It is still developing and much more substantial to information in certain way than in other. I wouldn't use story. I would use imaginative language and humor, and there's a certain amount of finishing that happened in those 93 years is early in the early 20s where it is the full up development of the parental contest which is responsible both for those our ability to think logical and to predict some outcome and also maybe a little for us to protect the negative outcome as well, right? So optimists follow victim to duality brain are lazy because mode of nature is lazy. There has been a justified reason for our energy output, you know, because that's using resources that are important for our survival. So if our brains are lazy and they follow the process, they're easiest for them to follow. If you have continuously trained your brain and to like reframe and reframe and reframe. That's the positive. The optimistic outcome is to think about, and you have to work really hard to think about the negative one itself. Unless it's feeling trained in some way, it will seem good big enough because prediction machine is like I predict that is probably what's going to happen. I will be a positive outcome. There might be other factor, but the industry that I would be spending thinking about those other factor doesn't seem in the like evident necessary for the importance of decision. So good enough. Our brains really don't like to be bored. They get red and happy if they understood and then that can go to solving the problem in many different ways, not just how can I solve the problem short term, but how can I ensure that this is not going to be a problem in the long run. Emotion was not useful, it is actively decision in how to build my life entirely logically. Now, as obviously, like when you are human, so it's possible we make its emotion listen out all the time. But a young, full, developing brains think that it is something that can be done and that they can, always do the right thing, and the right thing is the logical things. And then as I start to learn about the brain, as I started to learn about myself, I realized that I didn't have a lot of experience in seeing what would happen if I just let them come. And most people experience with this in as adolescent, but they don't know experience. They just this motion they just to think just kind of think this is how I am and this is who I am. Right? They don't think about it abstract way. I went to New York and I trained at the Alvin Alley School, which is very renowned school for modern dance day in Manhattan, and I was gonna be a dancer, but then there was sort of crack in the freckles little bit. I wasn't with from the field, and when you're a dancer, especially when you are a young dancer, you're treated as if you don't have a mass of your own. You're simply a body and artistic director and a choreography the teaching is giving you to the input and you have to give it back and for some that really have a progress decrease in makeup wasn't really satisfying especially when they would comment about biochemistry like don't eat too much turkey for Thanksgiving because they fall asleep and whether they're not fitting in and whether are they not supposed to be emulating the men or making a point of being female and they start just chucking things taking their power taking their place on the table and us asking permission for it and we have all these challenging women that had to do that they have had to take and these are so many classes in academia the Asian avatars and they are still there to be broken but I think for the massive since we are always trying to get women in STEM now and women in coding especially I think it's all like I hope this is an open shape like storming the beach at Normandy like we just put enough women into purple and the fact that it's really won't be a problem. We'll eventually get enough of them to tension check position. That's really stable position feedback loop, and I think that for the massive it can be very difficult to be at your best when you're constantly looking over your shoulder and wondering if being you is enough.